The breakfast table exploded with sticky red jam, but nobody could see the jar. Picture this: morning sunshine, birds singing, toast popping high into the air, and Plinko dancing into the kitchen wearing a chef hat 3 sizes too big. He was ready for the greatest breakfast ever. Fresh toast, butter towers, strawberry jam. But the moment he reached for the jar, poof! It vanished. Only the lid remained, spinning on the counter. Plinko blinked once. Blink. Blink. Then jam suddenly splatted across his nose. He looked left. He looked right. Nobody there. Another splat landed on the toaster, then another on the wall, then another shaped like a smiley face. And that's when things got weird. Plinko slowly tiptoed backward. The invisible jam jar was moving around the kitchen by itself. He followed the sticky trail across the floor, sliding like skates. Boing! He bumped into a chair. The chair rolled away. The jam trail turned sharply toward the fridge. Plinko whispered, "I know you're in there." He opened the fridge door dramatically. Nothing but milk, cheese, and one confused carrot. Then jam splashed onto the top of his hat. Nobody saw this coming. Plinko spun around in circles, trying to catch something he couldn't see. He grabbed a butterfly net. He lunged. Missed. He jumped onto the table. Missed again. He dove behind the cereal boxes. Still nothing. That was moment 1. Silly mistake. Instead of catching the jar, he accidentally launched toast slices into the ceiling fan. Toast flew everywhere like crunchy birds. The invisible jar escaped through the doorway, leaving little red dots down the hallway. But wait! The chase had begun. Plinko ran after the jam trail, feet pattering across the floor. Left turn, right turn, under a stool, over a rug, through the laundry room. The invisible jar moved fast. Too fast. Plinko grabbed a mop like a racehorse and rode it down the hall. Whee! He nearly caught it near the stairs. Then the jar suddenly rolled between his legs. Plinko flipped forward, bounced off a beanbag, and landed inside a basket of socks. That was moment 2. Chase begins. The socks flew upward like confetti. Plinko popped out wearing 3 socks on one ear. The jam trail now led into the living room. He crept in quietly. The room looked normal. Couch, lamp, pillow fort. Then the couch cushion slowly lifted by itself. Plinko gasped so hard he hiccuped. The invisible jar was hiding under the cushion. He pounced, but it zipped away again. The lamp wobbled. The rug curled up. A picture frame turned sideways. Everything in the room was reacting to the speedy jar. Plinko needed help. Right then, a tiny squeaky sound came from the bookshelf. Out stepped Nibs, a tiny mouse with goggles and a toolbox. Nibs pointed at the jam splats, then proudly pulled out a bag of flour. Plinko's eyes widened. Genius. That was moment 3. Unexpected helper. If they sprinkled flour into the air, they could reveal the invisible jar. Plinko tossed flour dramatically. Too much flour. A giant white cloud filled the room. Cough, cough. Sneezing everywhere. The couch looked like a snow mountain. Nibs looked like a powdered donut. But inside the cloud, a perfect floating jar shape appeared. There it was. The invisible jam jar hovered in midair, spinning proudly. Plinko shouted, "Aha!" He and Nibs charged together. The jar darted left. They crashed into pillows. The jar darted right. They crashed into curtains. The jar zipped upward. They both leaped and landed in a laundry basket. But now they could at least see its outline in flour. The chase continued into the backyard. Birds scattered. Flowers shook. A garden hose sprayed wildly. Plinko sprinted across stepping stones. Nibs rode on his shoulder like a tiny captain. The jar bounced onto the trampoline. Bad idea. Plinko jumped after it. Boing, boing, boing! The jar bounced higher. Plinko bounced higher. Nibs bounced sideways into a flower pot. Then Plinko bounced so high he saw the whole neighborhood. He waved politely midair, then came down, screaming happily. Nobody saw this coming. The invisible jar launched off the trampoline and rolled toward the tool shed. Plinko followed fast. Inside the shed were buckets, ropes, watering cans, and one sleepy rubber chicken. Plinko built a trap in seconds. A ramp, a bucket, a string, a banana peel for style. He nodded proudly. Nibs gave a thumbs up. The jar rolled closer. 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 Plinko yanked the string. The bucket fell on himself. That was moment 4. Everything goes wrong. He stumbled backward onto the banana peel. Slip! He slid through the shed door, across the grass, through a kiddie pool, and into a bush. Nibs face-palmed dramatically. Meanwhile, the jar escaped again and headed toward the town park. But then it got worse. Today was the annual pancake picnic. Long tables were set everywhere. Families laughed, kids played, music bounced through the air. And now an invisible jam jar was loose among hundreds of pancakes. Disaster. Jam splats landed on hats. Pancakes flipped unexpectedly. A trumpet player sneezed into a tuba. Plinko rushed in, trying to warn everyone, but all they saw was him covered in flour, grass, leaves, and one sock. No one listened. The invisible jar zoomed across tables, spreading jam like wild paint. Plinko had to think smart. Really smart. Then he noticed something. Every time the jar moved fast, it made tiny, squeaky wheel sounds. And every time it stopped, it loved landing near strawberries. Of course. It wasn't evil. It was hungry. Plinko smiled slowly. That was moment 5. Smart comeback. He stacked the biggest pancake tower in the center of the park. Soft pancakes, warm syrup, fresh strawberries on top. Then he placed one shiny spoon beside it, like treasure. Everyone watched curiously. The park went silent. Even the birds paused. Then, tiny squeaky sounds approached. Squeak! 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 The invisible jar floated into view, now visible from the remaining flour dust. It circled the pancake tower once, twice, then gently landed on top. Plinko quickly tossed a clear glass bowl over it. Clink! Caught! The crowd cheered. Kids clapped. Music resumed louder than ever. Nibs saluted proudly from the syrup bottle. Plinko carefully lifted the mysterious jar. As the flour settled, the magic faded. Now everyone could see it. It was an ordinary jam jar, with tiny wheels attached underneath, and a note stuck on the side. Plinko read it aloud. Prototype self-delivering breakfast jar. Please return if found. Signed, Professor Wobble Whisk. The crowd laughed so hard pancakes shook off plates. Plinko grinned. He opened the jar and spread jam onto toast for everyone. Soon, the whole park was eating breakfast together. Birds got crumbs. Nibs got a pancake twice his size. Plinko wore his chef hat proudly again. The sun sparkled. The music played. Everything was perfect. Until the butter dish quietly rolled away by itself. Plinko slowly turned. Oh no.